Kenya's clean energy revolution, wind farms powering sustainable future. Aging with dignity, Kenya faces new challenges as seniors thrive. Harnessing big data, transforming Kenyan agriculture for tomorrow. Battling cervical cancer, Kenya launches game-changing HPV vaccination campaign for young girls. A wonderful evening to you and welcome to Frontline Focus. We're here to keep you updated on the developing stories that matter both here in Kenya and around the world. I'm your host, Eunice Afia, and we'll be bringing you insights and voices driving change. You can join the conversation on our social media handles. On Facebook, you'll find us at NAFSI TV Newsroom, while on X, you'll find us at NAFSI Newsreel and the hashtag Newsreel right now. Frontline Focus begins right now. On to our top story. We focus on Kenya's ambitious renewable energy initiatives, spotlighting two key projects, the Gong Wind Farm near Nairobi and the expansive Lake Turkana Wind Power Project. As the nation strives to enhance its local energy capacity, these projects are paving the way for a sustainable future while shaping our local economy. I invite you to join the conversation on our social media handles and let's explore these pivotal developments together.
Kenya is making significant progress in expanding its renewable energy capacity. Two major projects leading the way, the Ngong Wind Farm and the Lake Turkana Wind Power Project. These initiatives are central to the country's strategy to improve energy security, enhance power generation, and drive sustainable development. The Ngong Wind Farm, located just outside Nairobi, generates 25 megawatts of electricity, helping power thousands of homes and businesses. Meanwhile, the Lake Turkana Wind Power Project, the Africa's largest wind farm, produces an impressive 310 megawatts, easing power shortages in the country, especially in the northern region.
The scale and the wind conditions of Lake Turkana made it very clear to us from the beginning that this was a huge opportunity for Kenya to bring cheap and endless energy to the people.
These projects are helping diversify Kenya's energy mix and secure a more reliable energy supply. Strategically located in areas with strong and consistent wind patterns, both projects are designed to maximize energy production.
Energy is a major part of Kenya's future. This is a 310 megawatt project. That will constitute about 15% of the entire national installed capacity. That is huge.
Along with providing power, these projects have generated thousands of jobs in the surrounding areas, including construction, operations, and maintenance. For many in these regions, it's a much-needed source of income and stability. The impact on local communities is profound. Beyond providing clean energy, these projects offer jobs and promote sustainable economic growth, especially in areas that had little access to reliable power before.
The things that really surprised us as project developers in this project was the passion with which every consultant, engineer, investors themselves started working. People became simply passionate, the way we were passionate about it.
For many, the arrival of these renewable energy projects has brought new hope and opportunities, creating a pathway for greater stability and development. As Kenya continues to expand its renewable energy capacity, the future looks bright with more clean energy, more jobs, and stronger economy. This is Gordon Odwor reporting for NAFSI TV.
Thanks for that update, Gordon. We are joined by one of our correspondents for more. Gordon, karibu. How is the Gong Wind Farm improving electricity supply in Nairobi?
The Ngong wind farm, located near Nairobi, is adding a significant amount of electricity to the national grid. This in turn is helping meet growing demand. And beyond power, it's also involving local communities in job creation and project management, strengthening both energy security and local economies.
That's great. Now, how about the Lake Turkana project, which is Africa's largest wind farm? How is it affecting the northern region of Kenya?
Lake Turkana's 310 megawatts capacity will significantly ease power shortages in Kenya and our neighboring countries. It will also create jobs in this remote region, with local residents filling positions in construction, maintenance, and operations, offering much needed economic relief.
Impressive progress, but there are challenges, right? Especially with infrastructure. Can you explain the issues faced by Lake Turkana and how community involvement plays a role?
Lake Turkana has faced infrastructure hurdles due to its remote location, such as difficult access to roads and power lines. However, efforts are being made to improve infrastructure. There is also a need for stronger community involvement to ensure local residents fully benefit from the project.
Thanks for that update, Gordon. So indeed, Kenya's renewable energy projects are not only addressing power shortages, but also creating jobs and contributing to sustainable growth. Looking into this topic in greater detail, I'm joined by an analyst who will shed more light on just how Kenya's clean energy revolution is. Karibu sana. Please do introduce yourself.
I'm Dorcas Sambuto, working in the Parliament of Kenya's Head of Public Communications. I have worked also with the Ministry of Science and Technology. It used to be called Higher Education, Science and Technology. That was in the year 2003, and that's where I met the National Council for Science and Technology, for whom I was doing public communication for. Now, while I was working with them, I encountered this clamor for renewable energy, and I sat on most of the boards they were having in discussions where they were thinking of even going nuclear, getting some power from nuclear source. So I'm here in this studio to talk about my experience with this team that were working on renewable energy.
Welcome again, Madam Dorcas. Allow me to delve straight into the questions. How can renewable energy projects like this help communities create more local energy solutions?
Yes, if you look at renewable energy, it does not only involve the wind power, it's also spreading to solar power, it has geothermal power, and there is also hydropower. But wind power and solar power up to this time contributes about 16% of the power that is given to the grid, the national grid on power. But looking at that, the government is looking forward to making it stretch to around maybe 18%, so that it can contribute also 18% by 2030. Now, the renewable energy, just like the windmills at Ngong and the windmills in Turkana, they provide us an alternative source of energy so that we move away from dependence on crude oil, natural gas. And natural gas and crude oil we don't mine, we import from other countries. And it is really costly, especially when the dollar starts skyrocketing against our shilling. We are unable to really get good prices for that. Fuel becomes very expensive for Kenyans. And then it also encourages us to have clean energy. When you look at the fossil energy, it is polluting the environment, it's full of smoke, and wind power doesn't generate any residues or pollution to the environment. So it is a good energy that reduces pollution. it also causes us to have an economic growth, because more people will be on the grid, more people will get cheaper electricity, and they'll be able to run their businesses and to light up areas in the community, so that at least the 24-hour economy is achieved for the country.
And what's being done to protect wildlife and the environment in large renewable projects like this?
What is done, especially like now in the wind energy, when we set up those turbines, the turbines are noisy, they have a shadow flicker, and that kind of environment, aesthetics of that environment is affected. So the wildlife there will take off, or will be affected, in the sense that, like the birds that fly and the bats, they will get caught in the turbines, in the blades, and they will be killed. They can either be killed or hurt as they fly across the windmills. And for the animals that are in the waters, as the turbines run, the fish and all that can also be affected. Fortunately for renewable energy, it's set in places where it's not the migratory path for animals, and it's not a place that is populated with human. They place these investments into places which are bare, and they don't have a lot of vegetation as such. You may find it is in a shrub area. Like if you talk of Turkana windmill, it's in a bare land. And if you talk of the one at Ngong Hills, it's also on a hill, a bare place. And looking at the hydro, you find the hydro, they develop a dam in an area that is not occupied by human beings. That dam also may be, as the water settles there, although the turbines are running the other end, the water that is coming down can also sustain life. So it is friendly to the environment and to the animals, unlike the crude oil and natural gas, which is dangerous for the humans and the animals.
Fascinating. How can Kenya ensure clean energy from Gong and Lake Turkana reaches remote communities?
We have programs that the government has been running. We have a project called the Rural Electrification Program. The Rural Electrification Program targets those rural areas, those remote areas, and when the renewable energy adds its value, its grid, its power generation onto the grid, it means now we have enough power to supply to more people. So now when we talk about the windmills generating maybe even that 16%, and plus the solar, it means we have gotten some extra power. Now we can reach more people with that power. And in fact, the areas that are having those projects set up, they can't miss out on that power, because they have a right also to receive part of that power. So they will benefit from it.
For my final question, how can Kenya use this clean energy to combat climate change and prepare for extreme weather conditions like drought and floods?
The clean energy, the renewable energy is clean. First of all, we have said it is clean, it doesn't pollute the environment. That means now it will fight against global warming, and global warming is the one that impacts the climate in various places, the seasons, and creates extreme difficult conditions, living conditions. So if we are going to move from the fossil fuel, which is polluting the environment, and use more of the clean energy, which is the renewable energy, the geothermal, the wind, the solar, and the hydroelectric power, then we will have a clean environment. Gas emissions into the air will not take place, and being renewable, it can go on, and it will replace the fossil fuel, and that will enable us also meet demands for electricity for the community.
We appreciate you for taking time to shed light and it has been a pleasure hosting you.
Yes. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to be with you.
Our next story sheds light on a significant demographic shift in Kenya, the aging population. According to the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, the proportion of Kenyans aged 60 and older is projected to increase from 7%, that is from late 2020, to approximately 14% by 2050. This shift presents both challenges and opportunities for society. I encourage you to join our conversation on social media, and let's take a look at this developing story.
Kenya is witnessing a significant demographic shift, with the aging population set to double over the next few decades. As life expectancy rises and birth rates decline, the percentage of Kenyans aged 60 and above is projected to increase from 7% in 2020 to nearly 14% by 2050. Today, more than 2.5 million Kenyans are 60 years old or older. By 2030, that number is expected to grow to 5 million, representing a significant shift in the nation's demographics. However, the country faces urgent challenges related to the aging population. Despite improvements in healthcare and a rising life expectancy, which now averages around 66 years, only 40% of older adults have access to quality healthcare. Many are struggling to receive the care they need. With limited financial support, many seniors face a future of insecurity and isolation.
Wakati serikali imepanga mpango wa kupeana ile kadi, wazee wengi hawana, pia hana pesa za kuweza kulipia kila mwezi. Kitu kingine ni wakati wa hii pesa tunaita cash transfer. Wale wanaochagua wale watapewa, njia ile inatumika sio nzuri hata kidogo, kwa sababu marafiki na jamii ndio wanafaidika sana.
Wakati tulipokuwa tukitafutwa, si tuliambiwa wazee wengine wanajiweza, lakini hatujui tujiweza kwa ajili gani, na sisi tungali wazee kama hawa wengine. Kwa hivyo suluhisho ni hili tu, tulikataliwa.
Experts are raising concern about the lack of healthcare access for older adults, with many unable to afford necessary treatments or even basic healthcare services.
Nikauliza serikali kuu kama inaweza kuwa ilipie zile kadi, siko kule kwa NHF zinajaa huko. Nilienda huko nikaangalia, nikaonyeshwa. Kwa hivyo haijalipiwa hadi wa leo. Sasa mtu wazee wakishagonjeka wanaambiwa waende walipie, na hawana, wanakufa.
Nataka county government kuwe ikiwasaidia sana sana wakati wanapoelekea hospitalini kutibiwa, sipate matibabu kwa njia ya gharama sana, ili tuweze kusaidia hawa wako wetu. Kwa hivyo kwa niaba ya Duarte Njuguna Foundation wenye tumekuwa tukiwasaidia kuwapatia chakula, tutaendelea kuwapatia chakula, tutaendelea kuwasaidia kupata matibabu huko hospitalini, na sana sana pia kuwasaidia kupata haki zao. Naona mabwenyenye wenye wana target hawa wazee wetu, wanaenda wanawanyang'anya mashamba yao. Tungependa kuambia serikali angalie hawa wazee wetu sana.
By 2030, Kenya will be home to 5 million elderly people. If steps are not taken to address their needs, the consequences could be far-reaching. The future of Kenya's aging population lies in the policies that we implement today. A society that values and supports its elderly will foster a stronger, more resilient nation for all. Joe Aura, reporting for Nafsi TV.
Thank you for that report. To get to understand this topic with gravity, we have an expert joining us. Welcome very much. Introduce yourself to our viewers.
Yeah, my name is Chakri Chen, and I'm glad also to have you. And I've worked with the Ministry of Gender, Social Services and Children Department, and I have been part of the team that was involved at first at the inception of Social Security.
Welcome once again. On to our questions. What are the key factors driving the rapid increase in Kenya's aging population?
Yeah, there are so many factors, and in fact the most important one is of late, compared to other years, we have had the older people accessing some nice medical care, because we have got issues whereby previously most people, even if they could retire, that was the end of it all. Because I witnessed so many people retiring at the age of 55 previously, and they were members like for National Hospital Insurance Fund. And then once they could retire from the government, that was the end of them having medical cover. But now, right now, there has been a change, and rapid change, whereby even somebody could retire even past the age of 60, and then they still could have to enjoy medical cover. As such, you find that they are aging, and then as they're aging, they're also taken care of in terms of National Hospital Insurance Fund, and also they are able now to access most of the medical care beyond the age of 55 or 60, unlike previously. Then also we have seen cases whereby our young population, especially the youth, sometimes some of them, like the people who are beginning to work, they become excited, and then they start to even involve themselves in substance, drug abuse, and then they start wasting themselves. Even others have involved in violent cases, they keep on dying. There was a case whereby we had a case of a young gentleman who had just gone to a club to celebrate that he has gotten a new employment, and then in the club he was killed. He never picked up the appointment letter at all. So you find that these things have been affecting the young youth. Some of them even involve themselves in very funny things. They keep on, then they die at a very young age. That's how we are getting the old people now, even being very many compared to the young people.
Thank you so much for that elaborate explanation. And for my second question, with only 40% of older adults receiving adequate health care, what are the main barriers to healthcare access for the elderly in Kenya?
Right now, we are now in the month of December, and we had a problem in Kenya, like the transition from National Hospital Insurance Fund to the Social Health Authority. There have been challenges in the area of seamless transition from NHI to SHA. So the problem has been there. So number one, it has made the elderly people, and not only the elderly people, even among so many people who are younger, to have challenges even to enroll on the current health insurance. So there's a problem, so many people cannot transit to that one. Secondly, even there is poverty. You find that there is poverty in some of the families, and so many people in Kenya, especially due to the prevailing economic situation, they cannot even afford even a meal in a day. So most of Kenyans are living even below $1 per day. And then when you are living at below $1 per day, you find that you cannot even afford even the cheapest medicine that maybe one needs. Also, you've got the old cultural belief. Somebody believes that maybe he has been bewitched. Things like high blood pressure in the villages, and then maybe somebody falls down because of maybe low sugar or high sugar. Then they say so and so has to eat so and so. So there have been that kind of analogy among the tradition. People needed to be taught elaborately on the basic medical conditions so that they do not believe that everything is being bewitched. Then another area also is that for those ones maybe who are living up country, maybe their children are outside. Sometimes the children also do not take care of their parents or the elderly in time at home. So you find that those are the major hindrances to them getting medical attention in time.
What improvements are needed in Kenya's healthcare system to better support the growing elderly population?
We need a seamless transition from National Hospital Insurance Fund to the Social Health Authority. If there is seamless transition, there'll be no much problem.
Thank you for that. So this is our final question.
Yes.
How significant is financial insecurity among older Kenyans, and what solutions can be implemented to improve their financial stability?
It's a very elaborate area because the only thing that is there is the poverty level, which needs at least to be addressed. Because we find that without being empowered financially, cannot even treat even a very simple case of infection, like even diarrhea. If we can have a case where we can have a way that the elderly and the sick, if they can be put on board and have a collective way of having funds to help them, maybe insurance or something which can help them in such a way to alleviate poverty so that they can also be enrolled in a nice medical cover, it can solve the problem. And maybe even the current stipend of around 2,000 shillings, if it can be increased much more to the elderly people, because this program, when it was introduced between the year 2005 and 2009, the money hasn't yet been increased to date. The money is still 2,000, and sometimes it comes very late. It can accumulate even to 4 or 5 months before they are paid. Then it is paid in lump sum.
What about pensions?
Pension is in two ways. We have got the pension are for the people maybe who have been working and they have retired at the age of 55 or 60, and then they get something at the end of the month. The pension is supposed to be coming once in a month, and the money sometimes may also delay. Then also sometimes not all the elderly people are working. Others who are not working, and then others educated their children, they sold land, they sold cattle to educate their children, and even some of those children have died. While others fail even to get employment. So we find that now poverty again increase. You sell your land, you educate your child goes abroad and dies there or never comes back. Or so you remain in more impoverished way or position more than even where you were. You find you got no any other asset. And that is the major problem. So you find that most people maybe also they are not having pension because they were not employed. Then on the other side also, you find that we have the National Social Security Fund, that is NSSF. NSSF also is for the people who also happen now to retire at one age, and mostly NSSF pays people in lump sum. Maybe the money that was paid also in lump sum already has been eroded. Or maybe when the money came, there were needs like school fees, and then also it finished the money. Because NSSF gives money once in a lump sum way. Because as you work, you invest with NSSF. When you retire, they give you money in bulk. And so the only thing is that maybe it is to educate our people how to maintain themselves even after retire. And if they can only have some little income after retire, then things can work for them in the medical area.
Thank you so much for that information. And just for your final remarks, do you think there's something the government can do to better the situation with the elderly?
Yes, there are so many, there are a lot that the government can do. For example, number one, if the government can have all the elderly enlisted. I'm sure that so many people do not have identity cards in this country, especially the elderly, more especially the women. They don't have identity cards. I think the government could enroll all the elderly so that they are put on the platform so that they can also receive the stipend of the 2,000, though it is all overdue because the year 2,000 shillings has been there since the year 2006, 2007. Until today it is still 2,000. If that money can be also increased and also enroll more people on the program, then at least that one can also reduce the cases of poverty. Then also the challenge of maybe the seamless transition from NHIF to SHA, so that at least now also when they are sick, their whatever they had maybe under NHIF can also be used under SHA. Then they can also have maybe also a better life.
Thank you very much, Mr. Philip, for your time. It's been a great pleasure having you.
You're most welcome. Thank you.
Stay tuned because right after the break, we'll be delving into how big data is revolutionizing sustainable development right here in Kenya, with innovations from countries around the world, such as Brazil and India, which are using data analytics to combat deforestation and address agricultural challenges. Don't miss it.
Audio Jungle.
And welcome back. Now, as promised, let's jump into a fascinating topic that could shape the future of Kenya: the role of data in sustainable development. Around the world, countries like Brazil and India are leading the way by using data analytics to tackle some big challenges. What are they, you may ask? And how can Kenya adapt them? Well, let's find out together. Kenya is embracing the power of big data as a tool for sustainable development, particularly as it faces the dual challenges of climate change and rapid urbanization. With over 75% of the population reliant on agriculture and a booming urban population, data-driven solutions are emerging as key instruments for improving livelihoods and fostering growth. More than 75% of Kenyans depend on agriculture for their livelihood, yet the country is also grappling with the pressures of a rapidly expanding urban population. By 2030, Kenya's urban population is expected to double, creating new challenges for both production and sustainable development. One solution gaining traction is the use of big data in agriculture. The mFarm app, which provides Kenyan farmers with real-time information on market prices, is transforming the way they approach farming. By using this data, farmers can make better decisions, increasing yields and improving profits.
So mFarm started in October 2010, and this was through a competition, a tech 48-hour competition, and we emerged being the winners of the competition. And why we got into mFarm is because there are lots of problems with small-scale farmers in Africa, and this was documented in journals, newspapers, local newspapers, and there are three main categories that these farmers are going through. So one is they didn't have access to information about the market. Second was they didn't have access to viable markets so that they could make good value for their products. And third, they had no access to farm inputs. So this made the farm inputs expensive for them to get.
Data-driven solutions similar to those implemented in other countries can help Kenya address its urbanization challenges. In Brazil, for example, satellite monitoring by the National Institute of Space Research has been instrumental in tracking deforestation in the Amazon.
Data have been taken from Landsat satellites since 1972, and that allows us to go back in time over several very important decades. The Landsat archive is perfectly timed to capture many different waves of colonization across the Amazon. 40 years ago, we see small-scale deforestation creating roads that look like fish bones into the forest. But by the middle of the Landsat record, we see large-scale commodity production taking hold. So today's deforestation across the Amazon frontier isn't a single family. It's tractors and bulldozers clearing large swaths of rainforest to make room for industrial-scale cattle ranching and crops.
Meanwhile, in India, the Kisan Suvidha app provides farmers with vital information to improve agricultural productivity.
Some, like Nitin Patil, are trying out something different. With sensor devices on his vineyard that check weather and soil health and uses artificial intelligence to figure out when to water the crops, add fertilizer and tackle pests. Nitin then receives a precise advisory on a mobile app.
This vineyard where we are now, it has no groundwater sources, and we are growing these wines with the water that we purchase from outside tankers. With the help of this AI data, we are now able to irrigate them only at the crucial stage, and that's helping us to save around 50% of the water that we used to give before.
It is clear that big data offers vast potential for sustainable development in Kenya. From farming to city planning, data can empower communities, enhance productivity, and protect the environment. Sophie Kenya reporting for Nafsi TV. I'm joined by an expert in the agricultural sector who will give us a broad scope of the matter. Karibu sana. Introduce yourself.
Thank you for having me. My name is James Mbaya. I'm a food scientist. Currently I work at Bidco Africa in the Quality Assurance Department.
Welcome once again. So, how has big data impacted small-scale farmers in Kenya, and what challenges do they face in adapting these technologies?
Big data is a very big revolution at the moment in the agriculture sector, and it is really helping the small-scale farmers in the sense that at the moment small-scale farmers can be able to access information on the type of crops they can plant in their area, and the market where they can sell their farm produce. Unlike previous years when farmers could harvest their crops but they don't know where to sell. Some of the challenges that these farmers are getting at the moment is internet connectivity and phone network coverage, because these big data, for them to be able to access is through internet or through their cell phone. So you find that some of the areas these farmers are in, they have very low network coverage, and so that is one of the biggest challenge for them.
What about satellite monitoring? Can it help Kenyan farmers adapt to climate change?
Satellite monitoring is very important, given that at the moment we are facing challenges like climate change. So these farmers need to know the weather patterns in advance. So this satellite monitoring gives more predictable weather information, and when farmers get this information, they can prepare well, know which type of crops to plant, whether it's drought-resistant crops or early maturing crops. When they have such information, they can be able to prepare well. And then also in terms of trying to manage water, they will know that if the information, the weather forecast shows that there is more rain coming, they can be able to build reservoirs and be able to collect more water, harvest more water for future use.
So how can smallholder farmers in rural areas have reliable access to big data and technology in order to use applications such as mFarm?
The biggest way for the Kenyan government to ensure that these small-scale farmers get access to this big data is investing in internet coverage and network coverage, cell phone network coverage, mostly in the rural areas where there have been a very poor cell phone and internet connectivity. So if the government invest more in this, the private sectors also invest more in this, and ensure that there is proper and high internet connectivity and cell phone connectivity in these rural areas, they will have helped these farmers to be able to access big data.
Thank you so much for expounding on this topic, Mr. Mbaya. It has been great having you on board.
Thank you for having me.
Our next developing story focuses on a vital global health initiative, the rollout of the HPV vaccine. Well, aimed at preventing cervical cancer in children and adolescents. This initiative is particularly important in Kenya as cervical cancer poses significant health challenges. I encourage you to join our social media platforms and let's talk about this. Let's take a look at this story.
The fight against cervical cancer, a leading cause of cancer-related deaths among women, is gaining momentum. Nationwide HPV vaccination campaign is being rolled out with the hope of significantly reducing these rates in the future. The Ministry of Health has targeted girls aged 9 to 14 with a focus on community engagement and education to overcome barriers and misconceptions. Cervical cancer is one of the most prevalent forms of cancer among Kenyan women, claiming lives at an alarming rate. The introduction of the HPV vaccine is a promising step toward changing that, as the virus is the primary cause of cervical cancer.
Cervical cancer is one of the leading causes of cancers in women. So far we can say we lose almost 2,500 women in a year from cervical cancer.
Every being that is feminine is eligible to take the vaccine, and I can also say even our male counterparts, our brothers, they are eligible to take the vaccine.
Internationally, countries like Australia and the UK have already seen remarkable success in school-based HPV vaccination programs.
Yesterday, the teacher told us to wear short sleeves and eat a good breakfast.
And drink lots of water. And make sure you pack yourself a decent lunch.
In Australia, widespread vaccination has led to a significant decline in cervical cancer rates, and in the UK, the program has proven to be highly effective in reducing infections among young girls. In Kenya, the Ministry of Health is following a similar approach, focusing on school-age girls between the age of 9 and 14. The aim is to vaccinate as many girls as possible to prevent future cancer cases.
Tuko na chanjo kwa wasichana wetu wa miaka 9 mpaka miaka 15 kuzuia hawa kwa ugonjwa wa saratani. Ile HPV vaccine that is going to assist in matters to do with cervical cancer. We have enough vaccines in Kenya to make sure that all our girls aged between the ages of 9 and 15 can be given those vaccines so that we can protect them.
However, several challenges persist, including limited access to healthcare facilities in some regions, misinformation about the vaccine, and the cultural resistance. However, health advocates remain optimistic that continuous education and outreach will help change mindset and improve vaccination uptake.
That vaccine, I just need it to help my daughter and other women who are not sexually active for now. When they come to be sexually active, they'll be already protected.
A vaccination doesn't give one guarantee that you may not get the cancer, but studies in developed countries have shown that actually the rate of cervical cancer goes down with planned proper immunization.
Okay, I had a best friend, my classmate in high school. She suffered from cervical cancer, and it was the last stage, so there is nothing we can do about it. To the parents out there, I would advise them to take their children. It's cost-free, and prevention is better than cure. Cancer is cancer, and cancer has no mercy. So it's best to be safe than sorry,
Santana Mwoki reporting for Nafsi TV.
Joining me is Dr. Faith Abihail, who will explain more on the importance of this vaccine and why is it necessary for vaccinating our children against the human papilloma virus. Welcome, Doctor. Please introduce yourself.
Well, my name is Faith Estanandra. I'm a medical officer by profession. Currently, I'm at Kenyatta University Teaching, Research and Referral Hospital, working in the oncology department. I've had the experience of over 5 years in the medical field. Thank you.
Right. What is HPV and how is it transmitted and why is it a major health issue in women for Kenya?
Well, the human papilloma virus, as it's known as HPV commonly, is a virus that is transmitted mainly sexually. That is one of the most common way of transmission of this virus. And the virus actually causes what we call tumors in the body that can be malignant, and some are not malignant. So we find that what is the most worrisome thing about the human papillomavirus is the cause of the malignancy, which is cervical cancer. The common way, as I've said, is sexual transmission, and the risk factors of acquiring the virus are there, which are mainly low immunity in the body. They've even related research to tobacco smoking, because many women will get this infection in their lifetime, but you find that some will have actually a sequelae like the tumors in their body. So you find that there are risk factors that predispose women to get these tumors, especially low immunity, especially having tobacco smoking, as I've mentioned. And also another risk factor is a partner with many sexual partners, or a partner who has a man who has many sexual partners. Those are the risk factors. And I say that as I've been questioned that it affects both men and women, but you find it's more in women because it's known as the virus that targets mucous membranes so much. So it targets the skin. It can target the skin mainly, causing these lesions to form on the skin that we call warts. Can be on the skin surfaces, or it can go to the mucosal surfaces, which is now the anal area. Can go to also affecting, apart from the anal area, the vaginal area, the cervical area. It can cause issues in those mucous membranes. So how is it a health impact to us? Is that it causes cervical cancer. That is the second leading most common cause of cancer-related deaths in women in Kenya. And actually the first thing being breast cancer, second is cervical cancer. That's why we are really concerned about the human papillomavirus.
How is it important for parents to vaccinate their children?
Actually, the vaccination has been proven and has been quite effective in other countries like Australia, USA, and according to the CDC research that has come out currently is that it confers and it offers immunity in women up to 45 years of age. When you start early vaccination, they are protected for lifelong up to 45 years, and that's the risk group. About immunization, currently in Kenya we are targeting to vaccinate approximately 90% of the women by 2030. That's the vision 2030, which currently we are still lagging behind in terms of this, because by 2022 we had only vaccinated 77%, and the issue is that they only received the first dose. The vaccine is 2 doses, so you find people only got the first dose but they didn't get the second dose. So you find it's because probably people are becoming skeptical and they're wondering why we're targeting young adolescent ladies, but we are targeting the young population because the vaccine has been proven to be quite effective at that young age. It actually acts better when it's given early. It would have been better between 6 to 10, but in Kenya, because of how we are operating, we're just targeting around 15 years, up to 15 years, 10 to 15 years. And parents, we are just advising you to be not skeptical about this, because the vaccine is quite safe and it offers lifelong immunity up to 45 years of age. And it has been proven to reduce the burden of cervical cancer by 40 to 60%. And that is really a huge impact on our health economy, considering that we are between the women in Kenya between the ages of 15 years and above to 45 who are at risk of cervical cancer are like 16.8 million. And research has shown every year we're getting 6,000 women getting cervical cancer, and 3,000 in a year are dying. So if we can reduce that by 40% through vaccination, it will help our nation.
My final question, Daktari. How can healthcare workers tackle myths and misconceptions about HPV vaccination, especially in rural areas, and what strategies can be used?
We are totally against this, the myths and the things going around. The vaccine has been proven to be safe. So we advise mothers, fathers, guardians to take their children for vaccination. I know the rumors are running around, but it's important that we have your child vaccinated. Now the strategies that we have in place in terms of countering, in terms of enabling this vaccination to be effective, as I've said, in Kenya we are aiming to vaccinate 90% of the population by 2030. So what we are doing to ensure that this is effective, we have set in place various measures. One of the best measures is communication and it's communication with the people, the guardian who are taking care of the children. That is one of the things. They need to be first of all enlightened. You need first of all to educate the public on this, and the guardians are the ones that we are targeting to educate at first, and then at the community level, we're reaching out to religious leaders, reaching out to the chief in the village. The people who are influencers in the village are really of help to us, because they will help also to mobilize their people and reach out to them, that they may know the vaccines are okay and they're safe and they're available. In terms of even training community health volunteers, they really help us to get in deep into the village, to help us get and reach these children and their guardian, to help them understand. So the community, working hand in hand with the community, I don't believe in putting rules, but just work together with people, communicate with them, ensure that they understand the importance of these vaccines. When you educate the public, they'll be able to take up the idea so that they can dispel all the myths they're having, and then they can release their children for this vaccination.
Thank you so much for taking time and accepting to be here.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
We are going on a short break, but don't go away. We'll be right back.
Audio Jungle.
Dope. That's
Wow. Perfect temperature, perfect taste. Ember, the world's first temperature control mug. Audio Jungle.
Today's stories remind us of Wangari Maathai's words. It's the little things citizens do that's what will make the difference. This resonates very much with Kenya's push for renewable energy and sustainable solutions. For more insight, I advise you to check out Data Feminism by Catherine D'Ignazio and Lauren F. Klein. It highlights how data can empower communities and drive progress. Let's be inspired as we work towards a brighter and steadfast future. May you have a lovely night. I've been your host, and till next time, keep safe.